afraid to give a lot. It really does make a difference. So I'd like to take questions. Okay, in fact, Freddie has a question about that. Go ahead.
Okay, I wrote this poetry book, The Bomb That Blew Up God and Other Serious Poems. And I have shared on Facebook lots of poems from it. And nobody buys it. So I will go on sharing because I love it. I get tons of reactions, hearts, nice, blah, 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 and so on and so on. And of course, in whatever.
I think, Freddie, you also shared as a video on YouTube, if I recall.
Yeah, I haven't done much on video on YouTube yet, but I want to expand on that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And again, podcasting for poetry is incredibly powerful. Okay. And one other thing you might think about is another website called medium.com.
Medium.com?
Yes, I put it there. Medium is a website, again, where you can set up an account for free and you can post, I think you get to post something like 3 to 4 a month, either as audio or just written text articles. And you can upgrade for $50 a year to do unlimited blogging on that platform or writing articles and sharing audios and so on. The neat thing is that if you pay to upgrade for $50, Medium will pay you for every time somebody comes to Medium and sees your article, your poetry, and so on. Now on Medium, I shared, I think about 10 of my poems on Medium, and they actually got more views than my articles on marketing books. So in that sense, it was kind of nice to be able to share my poetry that way and to get readership. Now, again, they didn't buy my book, but I didn't really promote my book. I don't think in those posts. I guess if I did, I could have gotten more readers, but I still enjoy doing it because, you know, it's amazing when you share something and people discover it. Like one of my poems called The Waterfall was actually shared. I don't know how the person discovered it because it was only on my website at the time. A teacher found the waterfall and she used it along with 3 other poems, one from Emily Dickinson, one from the Russian poet, I think Solzhenitsyn or something like that. And I forget who the other one was. But here I was among 3 famous poets and me, you know, and she was using my poem as an example. You know, the only reason I discovered it is because some kid wanted to find the answers to the questions. And so he went on to one of the question platforms and said, what's the answer to this question? And the question featured my poem and 3 other poems, Emily Dickinson and the other 2 poets. And I was going, wow, that's amazing, you know, to have somebody use my poem as an example for students to learn how to write poetry or how to read poetry and appreciate it. I thought that was really neat. And how they discovered it, I have no idea. But I think that's probably something that us poets like more than anything is when somebody actually reads my poetry, you know, reads our poetry. You know, I love listening to poets read their poems live. I listen to a number of people that way, like Robert Bly and oh gosh, I'm going blank on some of the other ones that came, you know, to my town, and I listened to their poetry, and I loved listening to poetry live. So Freddie, one thing, you know,
I have an audio version of this on Audible.
Oh, cool.
So
have you sold much of them?
Well, I've sold in the street. because
Yes, but I
I
mean, on Audible, did you sell many of your
no,
audio?
no, I haven't done the right, you know, the right steps. But anyway, it is there. So it's there forever.
Yeah,
And
I love the title.
thank you, thank you. So anyway, this is free advertising for all you guys. So go for it.
You know,
You
Freddie
can
was,
email me at operafred@lisco.com. But buy it not at Amazon, buy it at Barnes and Noble. Okay.
so Freddie, put the link or some information in the chat
Thank you. Yeah, I'll do that.
so people can find you. And notice how, you know, one really great technique when you're on video and so on, hold up your book and share it with people as you ask the question. Freddie knows what he's doing. and there, she shared his page on
Oh, there you
Amazon.com.
go. Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's, you know, that's one thing that you should be thinking about is, you know, sharing your book. Unfortunately, because of my screen here, I can't reach back and get my book.
Okay.
But because right behind me is the Chinese edition of 1001 Ways to Market Your Books.
Wow.
I do not read Chinese, so I have no idea if they faithfully reproduced the book or not. But it's fun to have your book in another language, even if you can't read it. And then they sent me, I think, like 5 copies. So if any of you would like to buy a copy of the Chinese version of 1001 Ways to Market Your Books, you know, just email me and I'll tell you how to get one. But, you know, so that's kind of a neat thing that people do discover you in many different ways. And one of your jobs as an author is just to be out there, wherever you can be out there, so people can discover you. And I think we got another Chinese book there. Is that Chinese or is that another language? Okay, you're muted, Lori.
It's Mandarin, I think. It's a book I
Okay.
wrote about 20 years ago called What is the Emperor Wearing?
Yeah, and actually the Chinese language version, I don't know if, I think it's the, what is it called? Simplified Chinese
Might be.
or something like that. I don't think it's Mandarin.
I don't know, but I took it to a Chinese restaurant and somebody translated the title for me and it was pretty close.
Pretty close. You know, I've sold Chinese rights to my book, 1001 Ways, twice. The first time they kept coming back, emailing me back, and what is the meaning of distribution, or what is the meaning of discount, or you know, because it was, I mean, 1001 Ways is really directed at an American audience. So, you know, there were a lot of things in there that, you know, you probably wouldn't do in China or even in England. I mean, there were things that when I went to speak in England, they told me, well, I would never do that here in England. That's just not, you can't be that brazen, you know, something like that. And I said, sometimes you have to be, you know, even in America, there are sometimes when you have to, if you want to connect with somebody, sometimes you have to email them multiple times, call them multiple times, et cetera, et cetera. It's not that they're not interested in what you have, but they have busy lives. I have a friend that's been trying to reach me for the last 2 weeks, and I have a busy life. I haven't gotten back to her yet, but it's on my list to do on Monday or Tuesday. And she wants me to call back. She, you know, and I want to reach back to her, you know. So it's one of those things that you don't ever give up after one email, one phone call. You have to do multiple emails, multiple phone calls, multiple, you know, real world letters in an envelope, you know, that you send to people, things like that. Multiple comments on somebody's Facebook page or blog post or something like that, as a way of connecting with them. There are some people that seem to love everything I post to Facebook. They're like my Facebook, fanatics or followers or so on. And almost to a point of being a stalker, you know. But the thing is, I recognize their name. If they were ever to email me, I would respond because they have started to create a relationship with me by simply sharing what I share on different social sharing networks. That's significant. They're doing their job of making a connection by sharing me, commenting on what I'm doing, and so on. As my wife says, nobody should love everything I do. Even she doesn't, you know. So, you know, when somebody does love almost everything you do on Facebook, that's kind of neat. But, you know, at some point, that's, you know, just part of it. And you should recognize people, you know, if you've got social networks and you see people interacting with you in different ways, you should interact with them. That's a perfectly fine thing to do. You should, if you want to connect with somebody, start by following them on Facebook or Twitter, and then retweeting or sharing their Facebook post or repinning their Pinterest pin, et cetera, et cetera. It's a way to start to build a relationship. And okay, Ginger is looking for reviews for her 2022 Weird and Wacky Holiday Marketing Guide. And I've seen that, and it's a wonderful little book. And if you really want to tie into different weird holidays and wacky holidays as a way of pitching to a blogger or something, say, hey, why not celebrate National Nothing Day with my blank book? You know, something like that. For your information, today is National Nothing Day. No relationship to me. But it's been out there. It's a National Nothing Day. But certainly, you know, I also have a book. Well, actually, now it's mainly a database I sell of about 19,000 weird and wacky holidays. It's called Celebrate Today. I don't do a lot of promotion on it right now, so, you know, it's available. But it's a nice way to tie in. Radio stations love it. You know, I can get on almost any morning talk show on radio that I want to get on simply by pitching them with the weird and wacky holidays for the next week. And again, if you can tie it into your book, so much the better. But, you know, that's really a valuable thing. I know, Phil, you have a question about publishing a series of books.
Yeah, so basically I'm writing a fiction series in WordPress. So I asked you earlier about that. It's called Splattering Yet Endearing. I've written 3.5 parts. And so Ginger gave me some advice, but per your advice, I just wanted to ask you in the video as well. Because like to me with Netflix, everyone wants people expect you to binge a whole season. Whereas, you know, before you would watch one episode every week or whatever. So like, in your opinion, do you think for a fiction book series, should you publish it like all parts at once, or one part every 3 months, every 6 months, every month? I'm like, I don't really know.
One part every 2 or 3 months.
2 or 3 months.
Because you need to focus on marketing one book.
That makes sense. Probably.
Because if you bring out 5, you can't market all 5 at once to most of the places that would want to share your story.
That would be a lot of work. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So I would do one at a time. After I promoted the first book in the series, at some point when I'm promoting the second or third or fourth book, I might give away the first book. There are an incredible number of websites that you can give away your ebook. And let's see, I think somewhere I have a list of those sites on my website. Let me see if I can give you the link. There it is. Okay. I'm going to put it into the chat. This is a link of about 220 ebook giveaway websites. By giveaway, they mean anything under $1. So you can list books that are $1. And again, that's one thing you could do if you wanted to. For example, if you're promoting your fiction series on Amazon, instead of giving it away, maybe you charge $3.99, $7.99 for the book in the beginning. You might lower the price for 3 weeks to 99 cents. And, and then, if you put it into Kindle Select program, you can actually give it away, I think 5 days and 90 days. That's what it used to be. I don't know if it still is. I don't usually do the Kindle Select program simply because Amazon wants to have a monopoly on your book at that point. And quite honestly, I don't want to have my book available in just one place. So I don't do the Kindle Select, but you can certainly lower the price to 99 cents. And for most people on Amazon, that's almost like free. Most people will take a risk at 99 cents that might not take a risk at 99 cents or something, at $9.99 or $30 or whatever it might be. And Ginger says, I don't recommend Amazon Select either. And, so that's something that you do. And Fred, I will check out your book on Audible. My wife and I are members of Audible. My wife has glaucoma and cataracts. So she's got a whammy combination. So she can't read now. So she listens to books through Audible. So I'm downloading new books all the time on Audible for her. And so I will check that out and, see if she's interested. But, one of the things is for most of you, at some point, you should think about publishing an Audible version of your book, an audio version, and putting it up on Audible. You'll be surprised. Audible, I don't know how many people they have, but they're making a ton of money selling audio versions of books. And but you might have to think about how do I right now, I don't know if Audible does advertising. I don't recall ever seeing an ad on there, but you can advertise on Amazon, your Audible audio on Amazon if you want to drive traffic to it.
You mean
And one
like
thing,
Amazon ads?
Amazon ads.
Yeah, okay.
You can go to kdp.amazon.com, which if you're publishing on Amazon, you're probably doing a KDP version of it, a Kindle.
No, I don't have that.
But you probably should at some point.
Okay.
It doesn't cost you anything to publish on Amazon. And it gives you, once you publish even one book on Amazon, you can now buy ads on Amazon at kdp.amazon.com with your account. Excuse me. You can advertise. And the neat thing is you can advertise. There's a really neat thing you can do with Amazon, and they're fully supportive of it. And that is you can link your book to other popular authors and book titles and subjects and keywords that are related to your book. So you could possibly say piggyback on by advertising. I know Joanna Penn advertises on my 1001 Ways to Market Your Books page on Amazon. Now I'm sure she bought my name or, put that as a part of her Amazon ad and probably the book title. And to me, that's perfectly legitimate thing to do. I don't mind that people are piggybacking on me. I think it's kind of neat that they think that I'm special in some way. But so, Freddie, if you got favorite poets that write in the same style as you could advertise against their names and their book titles and even their poem titles you could do. You'd be surprised what people use Amazon for as a search engine to find things. And so they will be looking for, say, your favorite, let's say Robert Bly was your favorite poet or something. You could then, connect with them and, advertise against their name, and who knows, people that love Bly might like your poems. Something like that. You can think about that. Okay, and Phil has just put in his WordPress blog. And I'm just going to click on it to see what it says.
Oh, I'm just sharing it because I think, what was it?
Yeah.
I saw Freddie shared his link, so I was like, I'll just share mine just for the heck of it. That's all.
Okay. Now, the one disadvantage with your website
Sure.
is you got a weird, I presume you're doing it on a host site called .blog.
Yeah, I'm using the free version. I didn't pay for it yet.
Yeah, that's fine. But your PTS Phil tells stories, nobody's ever going to search for that.
Mhm.
People might search for Phil tells stories, and that's easy to remember. But the PTS at the beginning of it, I know that's probably Phil tells stories
Yeah.
duplicate, but it's hard to remember.
Okay.
So it's hard for you to share it with people if you're going to verbalize it. But second of all, it's hard for people to type in. Now, I was lucky because you shared the link here, so I could click on it and get to your site. But if I had to remember how all those words, all those letters there, I might have trouble.
Right. That's a fair point. I should probably use like a link tree or a tiny URL or whichever, or just get buy a domain flat out probably one day.
At some point, you could do that. And again, you could always change your name.
Right. Yes. Down the road. Yes. Probably one day. We'll see.
But, those are things that you could do. And the neat thing about internet marketing is that it's so flexible. There's so much that you can test and see if it works, and if it doesn't, change it at a relatively low cost. And that's really, I think, part of what you want to think about, in terms of internet marketing. In today's world, a lot of us are going to be sharing things via the internet. Right now, most of us can't go on TV, and certainly not live. There are some shows that will take authors in live, but a lot of them will do a Zoom session with you or some other video recording technology to interview you. But it's not like in the old days where if you were traveling to a city, you could book a local TV show and get interviewed, which I've done multiple times in places like Kansas City and Palm Beach and so on, where I went live into the studio and was interviewed. It's kind of scary when you're live on TV and you're being interviewed, because you can't go, oh, could we stop and redo that? It's a live show, so, it's a challenge. You got to be prepared for a TV interview or even a radio interview. The neat thing about radio interviews is you don't have to dress up. You don't have to look good. You just simply show up, and you can have the book in front of you, so you can, read things from your book or things like that you can't necessarily do on video or TV. It's also one of the reasons that a lot of authors prefer doing a podcast versus doing videos, because they like that they don't have to dress up, they don't have to look good, they don't have to put on the lipstick or whatever it might be that to make them look good on video or whatever. They can simply do a podcast as an audio, and then boom, it's up there. And that's really one of the things that I like about it. I have another Substack page. The neat thing about Substack is you can create multiple personalities on Substack. I think this is my Substack one. My wife does a lot of writing of short stories, really short stories, like 1 minute long. And so I created I'm going to double check that is mine. Yeah. Tellmeastory.substack.com. And Phil, if you wanted to, you could actually create that as your website. You could use Substack for your website if you wanted to. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. It's so easy to set up. The difficult thing about Substack is it's sequential for the most part. You can feature some pages and things like that, but for the most part, they're going to see it in a sequential way. But I love doing that. Tell me a story. I don't know how many episodes I have on it, but I've done things like I did. I was listening to a thing, a CD of George Strait. He's a country singer, and he tells stories in a lot of his songs. So I did a couple of his stories. One is I hate everything. It's a funny but very moving story, because at the end the guy realizes that he shouldn't be in the bar drinking. He should be at home with his wife, and to make up with her because they had an argument. And often when you go drinking and you had an argument, the thing that happens is you end up having a worse argument, and suddenly you're downhill. But in this song, the guy realizes that he really does love his wife and he wants to keep his marriage. So I like this story. There was another one called A Father's Love, which is a great story song. And so I shared that on the story as well. The neat thing is when you do a song, you got to be a little bit careful with sharing songs, so if George Strait was mad at me and said, or his songwriter said, you can't use those words on your song, you can't do a podcast with that, I'd have to take it down, because I certainly couldn't pay him royalties for it. But the neat thing with YouTube is that you can share YouTube videos, and there's a YouTube video of George Strait singing both of those songs. So I can share that on my podcast. So, there are neat things like that. And I do recommend, when you're thinking about it, if you're struggling with content for, let's say you write a blog or a newsletter once a week or more, you can always share a YouTube video. There's one of my favorite songs is the Song of Joy. It's part of it's called the chorale in the Sixth Symphony of Beethoven. I love it. To me, it's just such a stirring episode of it. And there's this wonderful video of people in a plaza in Spain just milling about. And then suddenly a guy comes out with, I think it was a big bass fiddle. And he starts playing the song. And people start going, what's going on? What's going on? And then comes out the person with the violin, and then some drums, and then the horns and the flutes and so on. And slowly over time, as the song is being played, more and more people in the orchestra join the song. And then a chorale joins and sings the highlight of that particular episode, part of the Song of Joy. It's a wonderful video, and I shared it on my website, and it gets an incredible amount of traffic for me because a lot of people come to visit my website to see the song. And so it was an easy content to put up there. So, for people that tell me, well, what do I write about in a newsletter? What do I write about in a blog? What do I podcast about in a podcast? The incredible thing is there's so much content out there that you can share. You can say, I love this song. I love this poem. I love this whatever, and share it. And, again, there would be different ways of doing that. You might do it through your podcast, again, your blog post, your newsletter, or you might do all three. And that's perfectly legitimate thing to do. You could do all three. I've done that with my poetry. When I shared it on medium.com, I also shared it to my website, and I did a podcast. I did an audio version of it, and I shared that. And then I did a video version of it and shared that. So I had multiple ways to share the poetry that I had written. And,